Hello everyone, good evening, and good evening to you too, Jonathan.
Evening.
All right, now that we've finished the Congress, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to progress and move forward with the articles of Baal Islam, and we're going to go through some heavy ones. So we're going to start doing some main articles together, and the reason we want to do that is as we do these long articles and big articles, the main chores that we need to do, we'll be able to understand what the wisdom of Kabbalah is more about in depth, okay? And then what we'll do, we're going to do some more articles afterwards with Rabash so we can build our group environment. And then what we'll do, what this actually course of study will do for us, is that we'll be able to adapt ourselves to what we're learning in the morning lesson much better. Now, as you know, in the morning lesson, we're going through, as you may not know, but some of you already know, what we do is we're not doing the whole article, we're just taking parts of articles and we're working on that. And what happens sometimes is because we're taking just a little quote, and if you don't know the main article or where it's coming from, sometimes people want to know where the big article is, where the whole thing is. So this, going through these articles, is going to help us to build and strengthen the foundation of our knowledge and then the group work as well. Now, the first article, we're going to do 3 articles from Baal Islam, one after the other, and it's going to take us several weeks. These articles are long, so they're not like the short ones we're used to from Rabash's social writings. And they're going to be from this book, Kabbalah for the Student. Okay, so if you've got one of these, if you don't have this book, it's not a problem. You can download the articles from the website on KabbalahMedia.info. All right, so that's the website. And the first article we're going to do is Matan Torah. Matan Torah means the giving of the Torah. In other words, basically what it means is attaining the revelation of the Creator. Now, this article is several pages long, so it's going to take us, like I said, a few good lessons before we finish it off, but it's also going to give us a good foundation. These 3 articles are really main fundamental articles from Baal Islam. So, if you have any questions, as usual, shoot them through on YouTube, right? On YouTube and where else? And on the website, on Kabbalah Academy, right? On those 2 places. Okay, so you can shoot your questions on Kabbalah Academy website if you're watching from there. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can also shoot them through. So I'm going to get straight into the articles. And if there are any questions, Jono, feel free to stop me. Okay. So Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, or the receiving of the Torah, Matan Torah article. So this is on page 241 from this book, Kabbalah for the Student. One more thing, if you're new to the wisdom of Kabbalah and if you just happen to come into this video, this is not an article that's right for you. This is actually this is an article actually for some students who already had an introduction to the wisdom of Kabbalah. So if you just opened and you just fell into this video, I recommend you on our webpage here, on the YouTube page here, or on the Kabbalah.academy website, go to the Education Center lessons, start from the beginning, because this article is just going to be a little bit too complicated for someone who just fell among us from the sky, as they say. So, Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah. Love thy friend as thyself. Leviticus 19:18. Rabbi Akiva says, this is a great rule in the Torah. So there are a few things we should learn initially. Torah is not just a book. Torah is a manual. And it comes from the word manual, like a user manual, and light. Okay? So Torah means if you study this user manual, you'll get light, which is wisdom. So you'll have the ability to have an opportunity to change yourself. Therefore, this is why people read and study the Torah, to attract light in order to correct themselves. And this is what the wisdom of Kabbalah does. So unlike studies of Torah in religion, the wisdom of Kabbalah is only looking at studying the wisdom as a source of light for personal change. This is why Kabbalah is a wisdom and is not a religion. So Torah means when we're talking about the Torah, we're talking about a methodology. So we're not specifically talking about a book. This is why in the wisdom of Kabbalah, when we're studying in Bnei Baruch, we say we're studying the Torah of Baal HaSulam, or we're studying the Torah of Rabash. So we're studying their manual, their teachings. All right. So don't get confused with the book. So when Rabbi Akiva says this is a great rule in the Torah, what he's talking about basically is that this is the main principle behind spirituality. So let's read and see how we go. The statement of our sages demands explanation. The word klal, collective, indicates a sum of details that when put together form the above collective. Thus, when he says about the mitzvah, which is a good deed, a precept, that's what a mitzvah is. So if the words get a little complicated, I suggest you should stop me. All right, you should ask if you don't know. I'll try to explain as I read it through. Okay, so thus, when we say about the mitzvah, the good deed or the precept, love thy friend as thyself, that it is a great rule, klal, in the Torah, in spirituality, we must understand that the rest of the 612 precepts in the Torah, with all their interpretations, are no more and no less than the sum of the details inserted and contained in that single precept, which is love thy friend as thyself. So in short, Baal HaSulam is saying here, the great Kabbalist Akiva, what he did was he was teaching his students, and he said to them, he taught them one thing. He said the greatest rule in the Torah is love thy friend as thyself. And Baal HaSulam is expanding on that, and he's saying, listen, everything else, all the other things that we do actually in the learning, the study and so forth, is only so that we can actually get to this rule of love thy friend as thyself. So in essence, a person doesn't really have to attain anything more. The whole study, the whole application, the whole, the learning and the teaching, everything that we go through in this wisdom is actually to bring this person to a state of love of others. And once we do that, he's saying, well, your job is pretty much done, because everything else is actually details and steps of getting to this rule. This is why Rabash emphasizes the love of friends so much in his social articles, because that's the main thing that you got to focus on, love of others. This is quite perplexing, because you can say this regarding precepts between man and man, but how can that single precept contain all the precepts between man and God, which are the essence and the vast majority of the laws? 2. And if we can still strain to find some way to reconcile these words, there comes before us a second saying, even more conspicuous, about a convert who came before Hillel and told him, teach me the whole of the Torah while I'm standing on one leg. And he replied, anything that you hate, do not do to your friend. Let me repeat that again. And he replied, anything that you hate, do not do to your friend. So in other words, the translation of love thy friend as thyself. And the rest is its commentary, go and study. So Hillel also, in one statement, explains the whole of the Torah to someone who wanted to learn. Don't do to others what you don't like done to yourself. And that's also interpreted as love thy friend as thyself. Here before us is a clear law that in all the precepts and in all the writings in the Torah, there is none that is preferred to the precept of love thy friend as thyself. This is because they only aim to interpret and allow us to keep the precept of loving others properly, since he specifically says the rest is its commentary, go and study. This means that the rest of the Torah, its interpretations of that one precept, that the precept of love your friend as yourself could not be completed were it not for them. So you can do everything you like in the book, but if you don't come to the love of others, your work is redundant. Number 3. Before we delve into the heart of the matter, we must observe that precept, since we were commanded, love thy friend as thyself. The word thyself tells us love your friend to the same extent you love yourself, not one bit less. In other words, you must constantly and vigilantly satisfy the needs of every person in the group or in the nation. Okay, so the nation that he's talking about here is a group of people who come to study together. So when he says nation, don't think he's talking about your country or whatever. It's a group of people who study. No less than you are always vigilant to satisfy your own needs. So one has to be vigilant about satisfying the needs of his friends, just like he is vigilant about satisfying his. This is utterly impossible, for not many can satisfy their own needs during their daily work. So how can you tell them to work to satisfy the wishes of the entire group or entire nation? And we couldn't possibly think that the Torah exaggerates, for it warns us to not add or subtract, indicating that these words and laws were given with utter precision. Number 4. And if this is still not enough for you, I will tell you that the simple explanation of that precept of loving your fellow person is even harsher, for we must put the needs of our friends before our own. It is as our sages wrote in Kedushin, page 20, regarding the verse, because he is happy with thee. Regarding the slave, when sometimes he has but one pillow, if he lies on it himself and does not give it to his slave, he does not observe, because he is happy with thee. For he is lying on a pillow and the slave on the ground. And if he does not lie on it and does not give it to the slave as well, it is the Sodomite rule. It turns out that, against his will, he must give it to his slave, while the master himself lies on the ground. We also find the same rule in our verse about the measure of loving our fellow person. For here too, the text compares the satisfaction of the friend's needs to the satisfaction of one's own needs, as with the example of because he is happy with thee regarding the Hebrew slave. Thus here too, if he has but one chair and his friend hasn't any, the law is that if he sits on it and does not give it to his friend, he breaks the precept, love thy friend as thyself, since he is not fulfilling the needs of his friend as he fulfills his own.
Mutlu, I just wanted to ask you a question here.
Mm-hmm. Did a question come in?
No, it's something that I just wanted to raise myself. We've read many of these articles together in lessons, etc. Mm-hmm. So for the friends, what is the importance of reading these articles?
Well, for one thing...
What is the benefit to
that's
us?
Right, it's a good question. Okay. The benefit of actually reading these Baal HaSulam articles and finishing them off is, as students of B'nai Baruch, studying Kabbalah, we're actually studying the Torah of these Kabbalists. And they're guiding us how to attain spirituality. Spirituality meaning how to come to the perception of the Creator, of this higher force or upper force, whatever created us, and to feel it, understand it, and to live with that force within us all the time, so that we can actually be independent from our corporeal, bodily restrictions, and actually come to feel and perceive reality just like the Creator himself would. So what we want to do is to go in a little bit deep and actually acquaint ourselves with the articles of Baal HaSulam. So we get a little bit of a familiarity with his articles as being, as being these core things. So a student really needs to understand where these all are coming from. And so if you don't go through an article, and if you don't know where these things are coming from, sometimes reading just a little passage might be a bit of mind-boggling, because you don't know where it's coming from, how it's related, and so forth. So there are certain articles in the wisdom of Kabbalah, in Bnei Baruch, that we really should be going over in depth, at least should be finishing them and understanding that certain concepts come from these core articles, and these core articles actually base themselves from Kabbalists thousands of years ago. So it's not, nothing just created out of nothing all of a sudden. So it's all backdated, referenced, and there's a chain to the wisdom. So this is why these are important. And also, as we study these things, we're also awakening upon us, the surrounding light.
Correct.
All right. So studying the text of Kabbalah also warms us up. It begins to build in us this desire to move forward in spirituality, and therefore we begin to grow our vessel, the kli, the desire for spirituality. So all of these things are quite important for us.
And that's 100% correct. Just to add something further there, that the importance of the intention. The intention is really important. That Kabbalists in history used to spend a lot of time, essentially working together to do internal work, internal prayer, in order to develop the right intention before they started studying these particular articles.
Just a second, Shmuel, can you make sure you got the two of us on the... That's right.
Yeah. So they spent quite a lot of time on building that intention between them, essentially not thinking about themselves as a level of friends and trying to come out themselves to connect with the other. Because as you said, there's tremendous amount of light in these articles. So just, if we read it like as a university text or text from work, etc., it will have a different impact on us than if we read it before we do a little bit of preparation, like we do in the morning class. We do, the night before we read something, before the lesson, we try put our thoughts in the right way to try connect with something above the body, which is what the Kabbalists are talking about here.
That's right. Well, preparation is obviously everything.
Right.
And the attitude to the lessons, I think lesson 7 on the first semester.
Okay.
So whoever finished the first semester needs to understand what our attitude towards studying the wisdom of Kabbalah is.
Right.
So this is why I'm not going over the same stuff again.
Okay.
But the attitude to the studies, as we study, we want to be inside the text.
Right.
And we have to, we obviously want to connect with the Kabbalist who's writing it here.
Okay.
That's why. So, yeah.
There's another question here, Mutlu, from P. Green. He's saying, I have a question on the meaning of slave. I heard it refers to a desire to receive for oneself that is under the control of the desire to bestow. Could you elaborate on the meaning of slave?
A slave is obviously a person who's restricted. Okay, he's a slave to his desire to receive. That's what we're talking about. But when we're talking about a slave who's a slave to the desire to receive, we have to understand that he's on the path. So there are moments when each of us feel that we're controlled by a desire to receive. And this actually happens on every level. It's not just, before spirituality. In spirituality also, when you're moving from one desire to a new desire, once you correct one desire and you're moving to another one, you all of a sudden feel that you're controlled by that certain desire, this thing that's like controlling you rather than you controlling the desire with the intention to bestow. So during that process, in the story here, is just giving us an example. So the example here is, even if I have a slave, okay, someone lower than me, if I feel that he's lower than me even, and I don't serve him like I serve myself, the statement is, you breaking the law, love thy friend as thyself. So here what we have is seemingly it's a corporeal example, but actually we can take this as a corporeal example, as same thing as we work in the group. Okay, so if we're in a group and I'm sitting on a chair but the friend isn't, So the culture here is you go and grab a chair for the friend. So you look for a chair, you get him to sit down and be comfortable as well. These kinds of, why? Because we start with corporeality. So the article here really starts from the foundation of saying, listen, we're in corporeality, and the first rule is, if you want to advance in spirituality, is don't do to others what you don't like done to yourself. So that's the main rule. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to do that when I'm inside the group with the friends. The reason we're only doing this in the group is we all have a common understanding. That's why. So if you go around, outside, start grabbing chairs and pillows for people, they'll think you're a bit weird, and rightfully so. Why? Because they don't understand what you're doing. But if we're all studying the wisdom of Kabbalah and we're acting in this way where we're trying to do good to each other, then we understand what the motivation behind it is. So think of the example here as a really corporeal example. At this moment, we're in a study group. So what can I do to make sure that my friends can advance in spirituality? So we're in a lesson now. If Jonathan needs a chair, I go grab a chair. I check if he's got his tea or coffee, if everything is okay. So we, just like we would with normal friends, but the intention behind it is to bestow and to reach spirituality. And this work is common. Obviously, he'd do the same for me, I do the same for him. So all of a sudden, this whole environment with the group of people in it becomes this interactive place where you can constantly work in order to fulfill the desires of other people. So here he's giving us a corporeal example, because that's how we start in the group.
And it's the work of the heart, correct, Mutlu?
What do you mean?
Meaning that that before the act that a person's doing it, obviously they feel it in the heart.
Well, at the moment, no. No, at the moment, no, okay. Because that's further down the line. Further down the line. So anybody who's now coming into the group, he's not really feeling it in his heart. He has a bit of a awakening with the dot in the heart. So he wants to study spirituality. He's feeling attracted to it and so forth. But this is still from the desire to receive.
Right.
So if a person wants to then come and join the group and start studying, he's not really working with the heart. But in order to ignite the heart, we're doing these things in corporeality. Okay. Further down the line, as we start to work with sharing things, I don't know, with like for example, we had the Congress recently last week. Okay. So what did we do? Some of the friends were in the kitchen. Okay. So they were working. They were making our meals and so on. There were other friends who were musicians on the stage. They were playing the musics for us and everything. So as you can see, we had a whole system of people constantly working to serve each other. So in that action, the whole group it becomes one body. One body working in harmony towards a common goal. So until the heart becomes sensitive, it's important for us to do these physical work as well. All right. So in the meantime, though, take it as two people in the group.
Mutlu, there's also another question here.
Mm-hmm.
I think how should a LGBT person, relate to Leviticus according to authentic Kabbalah?
Well, even if a person is gay, by gender, it doesn't matter. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, we're not talking about our corporeal sexual preferences. In the wisdom of Kabbalah, we're talking about authentic friendship in order to change our egoistic nature. Okay, so sexual preferences are, not even a topic in the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is not religion, guys. All right. So the important thing here is to understand that we want to change our heart. And the heart doesn't have a gender. Neither does our soul, actually. Okay. So what a person needs to understand as he or she studies the wisdom of Kabbalah is to do the work in order to go through this inner transformation. This is what attracting light, attracting wisdom is all about. This is what the wisdom of Kabbalah is all about. It's about changing our heart. So I'm sure even if a person is a gay person, lesbian or whatever, everybody has a friend, right? So do you have friends as well? Okay, so I'm sure you have friends in corporeal reality, right? Also, in the wisdom of Kabbalah, when you come to a group, you have friends as well. So friends don't necessarily mean you have to look at them in a sexual way. So, some people are just your friends. So in a group where we're studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, we all help each other out in order to advance spiritually. And there are gay people also in the group. There may be also lesbians and so forth. It's not really an obstacle, because as you advance in studying the wisdom of Kabbalah and spirituality, we're not here overseeing or looking what the bodies are. We're actually beyond all that. So you'll get used to looking at friends as above their corporeal existence. And this is actually how it should be. Can I carry on?
Yes, it's just on the friend asked again. I gave her a link to the article in the website. It's just the book. Maybe you can show the book again.
I will show the book again.
Yeah.
I did show it in the beginning. I'll show it again. This is Kabbalah for the Student. It's a Bnei Baruch book. You can buy it from KabbalahBooks.info. They do ship it internationally. If you want to download the articles, you can also download them on our website. They're free of charge. Okay. There we go. So I'll carry on finishing this number 4. And if he does not sit on it, let me see. Okay, and if he does not sit on it, the chair that is, and also does not give it to his friend, he is evil as the Sodomite rule. Therefore, he must let his friend sit on it while he himself sits on the ground or stands. Clearly, this is the law regarding all the needs that one has and one's friend lacks. And now go and see if this precept is in any way feasible. So Baal Islam is just giving us a few examples, the pillow example and the chair example, which we just read here. So if I have a chair but Jonathan doesn't, what I want to do is make sure he has a chair. And if he doesn't have one, I give him mine. So he's giving us this corporeal example in order to tell us that spirituality is quite, I don't know, how do you want to say it, quite tangible. It's quite related to how we live here. So the chair and the pillow example, they're quite corporeal examples. And because we live in corporeality, he's saying this is how our attitude needs to reflect our actions as well. And this is how we start to work in the group, as everyone starts to think of everyone else. So I'm going to move on to paragraph 5, and we'll see how that works. Okay, and I'm just going to try and see if we can operate this. And okay, maybe we'll get there. Okay, there we go. Number 5, on page 242, at the bottom. We must first understand why the Torah was given specifically to the Israeli nation and not to all the peoples of the world equally. Is there, God forbid, nationalism involved here? Of course, only an insane person would think that. In fact, our sages have examined this question, and this is what they meant by their words. God gave it to every nation and tongue, and they did not receive it. But what they find bewildering is, why then were we called the chosen people? As it is written, the Lord thy God has chosen thee, since there was no other nation that wanted it. Moreover, there's a fundamental question in the matter. Can it be that the Creator came with his law in his hands to negotiate with those savage people? Such a thing has never been heard of and is completely unacceptable. So Baal Sulam is actually pointing out a question here. Why would the Creator give Torah to a specific group of people who are called the Israeli nation? Now, in the Education Center lessons, you know that Israel means Yashar El. Let me just make sure I can write here. Okay, so Israel, oops. Oh, I got black. Let's make this black. Israel comes from the word in Hebrew, Yashar El. Okay, so Shmuel, if you can show the text, thank you. Okay, so Yashar El. And this means straight or direct. Straight, direct. And El means God. Okay? God. So straight to the Creator. Now, what did we learn before? We learned that any person who has a dot in the heart and has an inclination straight to the Creator is called Israel. Okay? So when a group of us come together with our dots in the heart and all of our inclination, all of us come together for the same reason, which is straight towards the Creator, then this is called the Israeli nation. So it's not regarding your passport or your religion or your ID card. It is talking about an inclination which is inside a person's heart. That inclination has awoken. And when he wants to now direct himself towards the Creator, that person is called straight to the Creator, Israel. And if a group of people are doing that, then that nation is called the Israeli nation. So the Israeli nation he's talking about here are a group of people. Okay, in other words, this is the group that so famously Rabash always talks about, that directs itself to the Creator. And that's it. That's God. And this is how actually Yashar El, Israel, is defined in the wisdom of Kabbalah. So it is beyond corporeality. So anyone can actually be a part of this. It can be Chinese, Russian, African, Arab, European, doesn't matter, Middle Eastern, Central Asian, doesn't matter. Any person from around the world who has a dot in the heart and is questioning his life, the meaning of life, and wants to attain spirituality, according to the wisdom of Kabbalah, when that person is directing him or herself towards attaining the attributes of the Creator or of God, then that person is called Israel. Such a person can come to the revelation of the Creator, which is called Matan Torah, or the giving of the Torah. Only such a person can come to revelation, and that's what Matan Torah is, giving of the Torah. So all those people who have awoken and are directing themselves towards the Creator are called the Israeli nation. That's the spiritual definition, and in the books of Kabbalah often also is known as group. So when we're talking about the sons of Israel, the Israelites and so forth, we're talking about a group who's directed towards the Creator. It's very important to understand this, otherwise you get confused with all the corporeal jargon. Don't. This is why we're going through these texts specifically, so you understand where all this is coming from. All right. This is why B'nai Baruch is an international group. And in our Congress, actually, we had, 78 countries, wow. Am I correct? And 26 languages. So we had people from 78 countries, 26 languages. So it was a great, great Congress with people from all over the world. All kinds of cultures, backgrounds, religions, races, it doesn't matter. The important thing here is, do you have a dot in the heart, and do you want to attain the Creator? And if so, are you working with a group with that sole intention? If so, that's your definition, straight to the Creator.
Just more regarding this article, Matan Torah, I understand that the giving of the Torah, Matan Torah, is a constant thing. It's not a one-off situation perhaps to happen in history, and it'll happen sometime in the future. It's just the question is, do we have the attributes, or do we have the elements or the characteristics in order to receive this Torah?
Well, the thing here is this, Jonathan.
Is that right?
Or? The thing is this. First of all, we have to get to the first step. Right. Okay? So once we get to the first step of Creator's revelation, and that's what really Matan Torah is, when you reveal the Creator.
Right.
Then what you have to do is you have to go up and up more and more, and go up the ladder. It's also known as Jacob's ladder.
Right.
So you have to constantly keep moving up and up and up on the ladder, and every time the Creator is revealed even more and more. So you're getting a constant deeper, a renewed understanding and perception of the Creator. So it's obviously on every degree as well, but the initial degree is called Matan Torah specifically because the initial degree is the most important one. Because once you come to revelation, the rest is more like mechanics. Then kind of you have something where you can do measurements against your current state and what you should be moving towards. But before that state, it's all a bit blurry. So this is why the whole, the exile of Egypt, how they moved into exile. And so it's a big historical story, because until you get there, it's quite straining. No,
sure.
A bit of an adventure there. Okay, but beyond that, yes. Okay, great. So let's read a little bit more. I'm now going to read number 6. Okay. Reading from page 243. If there are any questions, though, let me know. But when we fully understand the essence of the Torah and precepts that were given to us, and their desired purpose to the extent our sages have instructed us, which is the purpose of the great creation that is set before our eyes, then we shall understand everything. For the first concept is that there is no act without a purpose, and there is no exception from this rule except for the lowest of the human species or infants. Therefore, it is certain that the Creator, whose exaltedness is beyond conception, would not act, be it a great or a small act, without a purpose. Our sages tell us about that the world had not been created but for the purpose of keeping Torah and precepts, meaning, as our sages have explained, that the aim of the Creator from the time he created his creation is to reveal his godliness to others. This is because the revelation of his godliness reaches the creature as a pleasant bounty that is ever growing until it reaches the desired measure. So the whole idea of studying the wisdom of Kabbalah and attaining everything is to actually come to perceive the Creator, and that perception of the Creator, being like him actually, is the greatest pleasure that a person can have. Because think about it, imagine living constantly in perfection, where you're constantly in just constant perfection. So the Creator wants us to come to a level of his perfection, and until we get there, we're in the grinding stone, right, Jonathan? So we're in the grinding stone until we get there. Exactly. But what happens is that the work eventually brings a person there, and this destiny is for the whole of humanity. It's not just for a group of people, but it's actually for everyone in the world. So whoever awakens, and this is why actually we teach the wisdom of Kabbalah as well. So we want to help anyone who wants to as well. So whoever has awoken, is dot in the heart, and is looking for the meaning of life, can now look into the wisdom of Kabbalah, study it, and actually move forward. Because every living creature should actually come to the perception and the perfection of the Creator. This is why his revelation, the Creator's revelation to the creatures, is very, very important as the purpose of life. And everything that happens in life is actually directed towards that goal. All the sufferings that humanity go through, actually everything we go through, good, bad, beautiful, ugly, it doesn't matter. The whole of reality is moving in that direction, and all the actions that happen here are calculated towards that. So there is nothing without calculation. There is nothing without reason in this world. And by that the lowly rise with true recognition and become a chariot to him and to cleave unto him, until they reach their final completion. Neither has the eye seen a God beside thee. So in other words, we all have to come to that situation. We actually have to see the Creator. And because of the greatness and glory of that perfection, the Torah and the prophecy too Refrain from uttering even a single word of exaggeration here. As our sages said, all the prophets made their prophecies only for the days of the Messiah, but for the next world. Neither has the eye seen a God beside thee. So we also have to understand that Messiah, okay, we're not talking about a man when we're talking about Messiah. Oh, let me write it a little bit better. Okay, so is that a double S or a single S? Double S. Okay, so the Messiah. The Messiah is your dot in the heart. This is your Messiah. So nobody's going to come from the skies. Everybody has a Messiah. The word Messiah in Hebrew is Mashiach. Okay, maybe I'll write it like this. In Hebrew it's Mashiach. Okay, it comes from the word limshoch. Okay, the word Moshe also comes from this word. Moshe. Okay, Moses. So Moses also comes from this word limshoch. It means to pull. Okay, that's limshoch, Mashiach, Moshe, which is Moses. So anybody who has a dot in the heart, this is actually the Messiah. Why? This is your Messiah because it's pulling you towards the Creator. Okay? That's what it's doing. All right, do you think I've got a bit of an issue with the aircon here? Yes? Okay, I guess I'm not able to do that. No? Okay. Unfortunately, John, we're stuck.
No problem.
All right, sorry about that. Okay, so that's what the Messiah is.
There's a question here. What is the difference between Mashiach and Shekhinah?
Messiah is your dot in the heart. Okay, this is the force that's pulling you towards spirituality. It's the point that's asking about the meaning of life. Shekhinah is the Creator being felt in your vessel. So in our vessel, okay, the sensation of the Creator here, Shmuel. Okay, if I feel the Creator inside this vessel here, that's called Shekhinah. Okay, Shekhinah or Shekhinah, like that. So there's the vessel, which is the desire to receive, and what's felt in the vessel. Okay, when they come together, it's called dvekut, where you reach adhesion with the Creator. Okay, adhesion with Creator. So they're separate things. Let's read a bit further. This perfection is expressed in the words of the Torah and the prophecy, and in the words of our sages, in the simple word dvekut. Okay, which I just wrote here. But for the widespread use of this word by the masses, it has lost almost all its content. But if you linger on that word for even an instant, you will be overwhelmed by its wondrous stature. For you will picture the exaltedness of the Creator and the lowliness of the creature. Then you will be able to perceive the value of the dvekut of one with the other. And you will understand why we ascribe that word the purpose of the whole of creation. It turns out that the purpose of the whole creation is that the lowly creatures will be able, by keeping Torah and mitzvot, to rise ever upwards. So keeping Torah and mitzvot, okay, means if I keep Torah and precepts, okay, this is the study, okay, and this keeping a precept in the wisdom of Kabbalah is I do the study and then I do a correction on my desire. That's what a precept is. So don't think of a precept as a religious deed. It just isn't. Okay? What the religious do outside and what the wisdom of Kabbalah is are completely so unrelated. It's just not related at all. So Torah means we study the wisdom of Kabbalah in order to correct our desire to receive and make it a desire to bestow. So what we want to do is change the intention of the desire. When we get to do that, okay, from reception to bestowal, then that is called a correction. Okay, so this is what we need to do. Change our reception to bestowal, then it'll be a precept. And that's what a precept is. And the study of the Torah should actually be bringing us from the Creator light. Because we can't change ourselves. The Creator can only change us. We're created as a desire to receive pleasure for ourselves. That's not going to change unless the Creator does something about it. So the study attracts light. And then we get to correct that desire, and then that becomes a precept. It turns out that the purpose of the whole creation is that the lowly creatures will be able, by keeping Torah and mitzvot, to rise ever upwards. So the more I get corrected, what's going to happen is, from here with my dot in the heart, as we studied before, I take my dot in the heart, and what happens is I'm constantly going higher and higher. So I'm constantly correcting myself until I climb all the worlds. Adam Kadmon, Atzilut, Bria, Yitzra, Asya. So I climb all the ladders of spirituality until I get to infinity. Okay, which is there. All right? There we go. And when that happens, that's your final correction. So this is where you attain the Creator, and that's actually called 100% Dvekut. There we go. Number 7. Any questions there, John, or are we doing fine?
No, it's no
okay.
questions.
Good. So let's see what we have. Number 7. But here come the Kabbalists and ask, why were we not created in this high stature of adhesion to begin with? So they're asking, well, why didn't the Creator create us here in the first place? Why do we have to go through all these dramas in life? What reason did it have to burden us with the labor of creation and the study of the wisdom, the study of spirituality and the corrections, the precepts? And they replied, he who eats that which is not his is afraid to look at his face. This means that one who eats and enjoys the labor of one's friend and is afraid to look at his face, because by doing so he becomes increasingly humiliated until he loses his human form. And because that which extends from his wholeness cannot be deficient, he gave us room to earn our exaltedness by ourselves through our work in Torah and precepts. These words are most profound, and I have already explained them in my book Panim Meirot Umazbirot, to the Tree of Life, Branch 1, and in the book The Study of the 10 Sifrot, Inner Reflection, Part 1. Here I will explain them briefly to make them understandable for all. So it's very important to understand this point. Why didn't the Creator just create us in perfection in the first place? It's a valid question. A lot of students ask this question as well, and he's answering it quite nicely as well, although it's a bit complicated. You know, in 21st century language, it's a bit complicated. But basically what it's saying is this. Listen, if you earn something with your own honest hard work, then you get a lot of pleasure from that achievement. So if the Creator creates us in perfection and we're already there, we're not going to value it much. We're going to take it for granted. And we're not really going to understand the Creator's mind and thought, because we haven't done anything actually to by ourselves to get something. So we would all have been actually very stupid, like animals. We would have been like animals, living like a rabbit in the forest. Okay, so if everything was okay, I'm already created in the forest, everything is nice, I've got the grass to eat here, the water to drink there, and if everything in this, already existing state, and I haven't built it, then I'm not really different from anything else. But the Creator wants a special creature, a creature that understands the Creator, a creature that knows what the Creator is, what his attributes are, and he wants that creature to actually build everything himself, to construct it himself. Just like, imagine how happy we are when our children construct their own lives and they can stand on their own two legs. Okay, so that's actually an achievement for all of us, because the parents are really glad now that the kids have made it, and they're smart and they're wise and they know how to handle themselves in life. So they're actually now independent from the parents. So by doing so, the Creator actually also wants us to be independent creatures, fully understanding, knowing what reality is all about, how the whole system works, and how we can actually function there without having to depend on somebody. Otherwise, we're like a house pet who depends on the food, okay, given by the owner, who depends on being taken out for a walk, okay, and who depends for everything that it needs to exist. So it's quite important for us to get our heads around this. The Creator specifically gave us work to do so we can construct ourselves and understand Him.
I'll just give an analogy in this world. Maybe it's a bit of an extreme one, friends, that, if, for example, I'm a billionaire and I give to Mutlu $1 billion, and I say, Mutlu, you're now a billionaire.
Just a second, Shmuel, you're going to have to work on the cameras, mate. Keep your eyes on us.
Yeah, so I'm a billionaire. I'll give Mutlu $1 billion and say, now you're a billionaire. How would he feel? He would feel, okay, sit at home all day, maybe count his money, watch TV, popcorn, chill out, order takeaways, cruise through life, potentially. But he would never feel what it means to make that success, to make that money. He would never feel it because he's just got it in his hands. So the whole idea is the Creator wants us to feel what it means to be a partner in creation.
Actually, you value things more.
Correct.
There's actually an article about it, why a lot of lottery winners actually end up losing everything.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and end up poor again. Okay, because they got a windfall. So they never had actually the appreciation of attaining it through that effort and hard work. So this is actually also a real life example, because this is what happens apparently. So it's very important for us to understand that a person has to make, build, construct, and by doing so, a person actually attains the thought of creation. Because imagine, just like the Creator created the whole of creation, what you're doing is actually building your own creation as well as you advance in spirituality. And this is how you actually attain the Creator. Just like when kids grow up and they become mums and dads themselves, they begin to understand their parents.
And also become independent from the Creator.
Exactly.
Become like the Creator.
Exactly.
Not the Creator, but like the Creator.
Of course.
As you're saying.
So you also begin to have your kids, and you then become like your dad.
Correct.
Okay, why? Because you got your own kids, you got your own family. You seemingly like in his spot now. So this is how we also need to advance and grow up in life.
Correct.
Any questions there?
Yeah, there was a question here by Simon. What does it mean until he loses his human form? The question is, does he die?
No, he feels really bad about himself. Imagine, when we have pets, right? Imagine you have a dog, and let's say you're having a barbecue, and you've got a nice rib. You eat the rib, and you throw the bone at your dog. Okay, and your dog loves it. Okay, so you just threw him a bone, which is nice and freshly cooked with a bit of meat on it. So the dog actually really loves it. Okay, imagine doing that to a human being. So imagine I was cooking steak or whatever, and I just threw it at you, you just, you'd feel really bad. You'd feel like an animal. So what it says is, when it's talking about he loses his human form, is that he loses his dignity. He's losing actually his, the whole concept of being a human. He's becoming like an animal. It's like, I'm feeding you, I'm throwing you a bone. And because you haven't earned it yourself, that's the sensation you're getting out of it. And that's what it means to lose his form. He's not dying or anything, but he's losing his humanness, the integrity of it, the individuality of being a person. Okay, so we've just done about an hour today. So we're going to put an end there at item number 8. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to continue next Tuesday from number 8, and hopefully we'll finish it in like a week. Maybe next week or the week after we'll finish it off. Like I said, these articles are a little long, but bear with us simply because they're deep articles, and you'll have more questions with these than the regular previous articles that we were doing before. As we get deeper into the articles of Baal Sulam and these longer ones with Rabash as well, you'll find more things of interest that you'll want to know, find out, and understand what they are. So up to here we've done. Let's do a little bit of a summary. So up to here, Matan Torah is telling us that the most important rule in the wisdom of Kabbalah is the love of others. And what we have to do is come to this attribute of loving others. We actually have to live in that state. And this is why actually the whole wisdom of Kabbalah was given to us. This is why it was given to us, so that we can actually attain that perfection, attain that state. Because there's actually nothing more perfect than being in a state of loving others, because you don't actually feel like you need anything from anybody else. So attaining the love of others isn't just a pretty slogan. It's actually a state of existence where you don't feel like you lack anything. So we need to get our heads out of this, relating it to worldly love or worldly companionship, or being a goody-goody two-shoes kind of person in this world. Completely not there at all. The concept of love in the wisdom of Kabbalah and spirituality is actually a description of being in perfection and completeness, where you feel like you lack nothing and exist in the same state as the Creator does. So let's get our heads around this concept of what love thy friend or love of others means is in the wisdom of Kabbalah, and not the classical understanding of what people are trying to do in religions and other things. But you need to understand that this is an attainment of the Creator. It's an exalted level, and the way to get there is to study the wisdom of Kabbalah, so that we can actually change through the help of this initial point called the Messiah, which is our dot in the heart. Okay, that's what it is. And the Torah, it's the manual, it's the guidebook that we're studying, which is the wisdom of Kabbalah according to the teachings of Baal Sulam, Ari, the writers of the Zohar, all the way back down to Adam. And what we have to do as a precept is actually correct our intention from egoism to bestowal. So when we're talking about the Torah, the precepts and so forth, you must make sure your mind does not go to any religious definition whatsoever. It's very important, okay? Because all the books now, when we're reading this article, we're actually now opening a new door about what these words really mean. Okay, for example, the Israeli nation, what Israel means, what the Messiah means, what Torah means, what loving others means, what a precept means, what dvekut means. We've learned quite a lot of stuff, and we're only on item 8. So we have to make sure we got our heads right with the definitions. So although it might look like we're going a little slow because this is several pages, just also, although we're going a little slow, we're learning a lot. Okay, so let's make the study a bit more qualitative now as we move forward with these lessons towards forward, like next Tuesdays and so forth. In the interim though, since we don't have any other question, it's been a great pleasure being with you guys once again, and hopefully we'll see you guys next Tuesday again. Until then, all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
אני צריך פוקוס, אחי. אני צריך פוקוס. כשאנחנו מדברים, אתה צריך... אתה מבין?
No. You know what?